Welcome to the Rise Inside podcast, hosted by Justin Starbird and powered by Rise Robotics. Listen as host Justin talks to experts from the Rise team about topics relating to mechanical engineering, industrial design, commercialization, and innovation. True collaborations work when ideas are integrated at inception to solve significant problems. Rise Inside brings together how the team continues to work with great folks to commercialize ideas. You're listening to the Rise Inside podcast. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to Rise Inside. My name is Justin Starbird, and this morning I am probably most excited for all the interviews that we've done for special guests to have John Strauss with me. He is a behind-the-scenes angel investor and advisor to young companies working to commercialize technologies that solve hard problems. As I've been told, he is an entrepreneur, investor, and as director of business development, Ken Gray said, coach extraordinaire. So with that, John, great to meet you. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I just hope I'm worthy of the kind words here.
Well, so far,
the teams make me look good if that's the case.
Well, the teams make you look good, but from everything I've understood so far, you also do a great job of advising the young leaders too that have grand ambitions and that are hoping to make a difference. So, with that, tell me a little bit about your role today.
Well, the role today actually is that as I work with a fellow named Walt Winchell, and Walt and I both have had the honor, privilege, and pain of serving in virtually every operational role in a startup, for my case, from startup through IPO, if you will. And so I've made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot of things. I was very young. I had a lot of, older white-haired guys telling me stuff to do, some of which was good, some of which wasn't good, and a lot of stuff we just had to figure out. And so I really look forward to the opportunity of helping smooth the road out a little bit for some other folks that are taking this near impossible task of taking a new technology or a new idea and pioneering it into a new space. It's a terrifying blast. So so it's just a real joy for me to be able to help these guys and gals get the obstacles out of the way.
Yeah, and Rise has certainly faced its fair share of obstacles over the last several years. And with that, what sort of role have you taken to help advise the leadership team here at Rise?
Well, Rise is really interesting. The Rise team are some of the smartest, most creative people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. Just from a team dynamic standpoint, on their own, they had managed, before I came along, they had managed to sort of create this team cohesiveness that is almost unheard of amongst themselves. In this effort to move Rise forward. So for me, it's easy because of of the huge respect I hold for all of them. As they push really hard in these things, if you tell a team like that that's ready to kill each other that they're doing a better job than most others, they kind of look at you funny and say, "No, this is a really hard thing you guys are doing." And so the basic when things would get really hard. Frankly, my coaching to them has been really simple. I would sit down and listen to what was going on and then just remind everybody of the respect I have for all of them and the respect that I know they have for each other and use that as a basis to sort of bring everything back into the room. Because over the years, I've learned that with people that we work with, we're solving a really hard problem, that we really have to tough it out through the discussions of the things that we may disagree with to find out where's the dissymmetry of information, because that's usually what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin, you didn't tell me they changed that law. You're right. We got to move, right? Or, it gets down to you like blue, I like green. This is silly. we'll let it be blue. We'll make it green next time. I don't care. But
Right.
but with smart, intense, aggressive folk, which is really who the people, that's the energy that drives these companies forward. The hard part with some people is they want to disengage because they don't want to argue with so-and-so because he's just a pain. And it's like, but the point is he's looking for that other piece, he or she is looking for that other piece of information, and you got to work through it respectfully.
Yep.
And that's where I've seen over the years so many breakthroughs in my own work with others. And you know, but again, it's really about reintroducing them to the respect that we all have for each other and the importance of what it is that we're doing. Frankly, I'd like to say that it's more complicated than that, but when you have the right people on the team, then, and then of course, you know, maybe you shouldn't discuss this that way with that person under those circumstances. There's all sorts of other interpersonal relationship stuff.
Absolutely.
That can be tweaked, but that's the basic nut of it. And with Rise, it's really cool because those guys are so smart.
Well, and that's really the impetus of what's been behind your investment strategy too, right? From, you know, getting to know you a little bit and learning more about your group, you invest in people.
Right. Yeah. We are involved a lot in Techstars and the Techstars programs, and there's a few other in the country. But the thing that I personally really like the most about it is that instead of looking for a technology and building a team to exploit it, which is sort of a well tried and true method of developing things, this is more of a find a team of people that have an idea they want to move forward, but it's clear that this is a team that's going to do something important. Mm-hmm. Because there's lots of pivots along the road. And so I like it a lot professionally because that means we're coaching a team that's doing something, that's going to be building a company, building a culture, doing things the way that we think it may be done. And eventually, you know, we may be able to say, you know, I knew Justin when, and Justin's, you know, now the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar thing, and you might take my call.
Hey, after knowing you now, I'll always take your call.
But that's does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so I wanted to follow up with that because you know, what did you see in Aaron and Blake and Tomas and Kyle that led you to see their vision and then, you know, stay with them for so long?
Well, Walt saw it first. I remember I was on a board with Walt, and he shows me this 10-second video of somebody from a standing start jumping up on top of, I think, a 5-foot tall box because the guys had developed a spring to put in the heels of your shoes. So, you know, the equivalent of a 20-inch long leaf spring, they figured out how to make it into a little package. Mm-hmm. Because actually, I mean, the Rise guys, their whole thing, you have to ask them, but the way I have it in my brain organized is that they got together to build exosuits, like Iron Man suits, mm-hmm. not robots so much as the human. They wanted to be the human inside kind of thing. And then sorted the problems from the hardest to the easiest, and then started attacking the problems. So why don't we have really good Iron Man suits? Well, what's in the way? and so this is my construct of what I've seen of the Rise guys. I mean, you need to verify it from them because this is my story of them.
Yeah.
And so in doing that, so we saw the spring thing and then talked to them about that. And then the other thing is it's muscles. We can't figure out the muscles. And so we could do hydraulics are really strong, but you have to have this huge tank of oil and this big pump and something to power it. Or you could do pneumatics. That's great. Pneumatic cylinders, you can do really great stuff, but somewhere you have to have a compressor or a tank of nitrogen or something to move it. So that's where they moved into we need to figure out how to solve this, what I call the motor to motion problem, to as quickly and efficiently as they can create linear movement for the muscles. And so the current chunk of technology that's being commercialized really has to do with I don't know which generation it is, of a how do you solve this motor for motion thing, looking at efficiency, looking at strength, looking at reliability. Um, so that's how we got to here. But again, the cool part is this is like only one part of who the Rise guys are and where I expect them to go over the near, mid, and long term, because the rest of that vision is still there with them.
Right.
And the discipline that they have about quality and safety and engineering is pretty cool as they continue to build the team. Is that responsive?
That's great. And dives into so many other areas to follow up on, because like you said, this is only one component of the initial vision of taking, everyday movements and turning that into an Ironman suit, and then realizing that was going to be, not just creating a new product that didn't have and creating a market for the product, but then creating a whole other recreation potential market that didn't exist either. And now, there are some near misses, I say, where technology from the spring, technology from the compressor, and here we are now onto the cylinders that, there's a real commercial viability to it. Not that those weren't good products or that we couldn't commercialize them, but the need wasn't created in the same way. What are your thoughts now as to, taking the cylinders and installing them into a lift gate?
Well, can I go back a second?
Yeah, of course.
Because I strongly disagree that the spring got to a point and it still exists and it's there and it will be back, in my opinion.
Yep.
We now have a new technology that didn't exist. We have like a cell phone and it's 1960. I mean, and this is a really interesting thing that happens a lot in companies. I'll divert for a second. You've got a thing, and and you study the part, and you study the customer's problem, and you've done all this stuff, and you've got these pesky investors that say, "Yeah, but do you have an order from the customer?" And you're like, "Yeah, but here's what the money, and here's the money they save, and here's how big their problem is." Yeah, but and it's like time out. Here's what the investors should say, and they don't say. We believe you. Well, maybe they don't. In my case, it's like, I believe you and I trust you. We just don't know how smart or stupid your customers are.
Right.
So the fact that we need to find out whether a customer will spend $1 on this doesn't mean we don't believe that the thing is important or that it doesn't work, because these are different problems.
Right.
So Rise, one thing, it was like, so we have this new technology. People haven't ever been able to do this. This is like a new screw or a new wheel, a new basic way of doing things. And they're hard to get people to adopt. And so how do we demonstrate this in a way that would be nice if it made money? So the compressor was one aspect of that, which was really cool. The compressor did another really important thing. He says, choosing his words carefully. We had a lot of interest of what to do with the compressor and how to work it and how to license it and how to do relationships around it. And the team learned a ton in that process. And at the end, didn't do a bad deal. And some say, well, I mean, that didn't work. I'm like, it worked great. You guys had a trial by fire, and then you made the right decision at the end and learned all about how to do deals. And so that will serve us all really well moving into the future. And so fast forward, now.
Can you stop for just there
Sure.
for a second? Because I feel like, that's a piece of knowledge and information that we can pull out, because not making the deal sometimes is the best deal.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times early stage companies make a deal because their investors are short-sighted or only focused, as you and I were talking about offline. They're only looking for the most equity at the least amount of price possible, and they're going to take any measure to do that. So how and these guys being still relatively young in the process, a few years out of school for sure, but it's still early in that not a lot of commercialization experience yet. How did you, create that trust to say, hey, we're behind you, we support you, we see your vision, but if we do a deal like this, it's going to end up, cannibalizing other things.
Or actually, I think I said this will crush your souls.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being more specific.
Yeah, yeah. If you do if you do that deal, it will crush your souls.
Yeah.
And Walt and I were at the team's invite. We're highly involved in the discussions. I mean, we're very clear that it's their company and they're in charge. So I don't even think we needed to do anything except make sure the circumstances were presented so that there weren't pressures and assumptions. A lot of people do jump to conclusions. This is a little bit about how people think. And well, the investors want us to do X. Well, have you asked your investor? Check it out. Well, they're really going to want, okay, I'm like, Ken's heard this. That's a hypothesis. Could you hold on? That's an important one. Yep. Don't call it fact. Check it out. And so they get all the information and they talk it through, and they're worried that, it's like a kid that says, well, you think I should go to graduate school. I'm like, I don't care what you do. If you want to go, go. If you don't want to go, great. It's like, there's this thing that the teams do. It's natural. Sure. With their advisors, and they think they should do something. But it's one of my top 5 things for coaching CEOs. If you think you're doing something because that's what you should be seen doing, please don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
That is the biggest flag. And I have some folks where, the chips are down, something happens in an instant, and they make a really good decision that, somebody else might look at it and be horrified. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And in other cases, they're like, well, what would people think? I said, remember when you did that other one? That was just absolutely the right decision.
Well, but and to that point, so many people are afraid to make decisions, not realizing that, that decision is only going to be incremental. Yes, it could have a visionary or a long-term effect. But, one thing that I learned advising CEOs and working with companies as well is that people pivot all the time. And one of the best things that you could ever do is change your mind. And so having the opportunity to, see that and have that vision, I mean, it must have been really neat to be a part of that group as you said, hey, it's going to crush your souls. And let's hold off because we still
remember,
believe in
I just did the crush your soul part. It's their decision to decide whether they want to hold off, not mine.
Right. but seeing them make that decision and then wait, and I mean they've had to be patient too, to get to the next commercialization opportunity.
Yeah, but to loop it back to the first point, then having made that decision, I'm pretty paternalistic. I don't know what the right word is. If someone looks at that process as somehow having failed, I get a little grumpy about it because that's not appropriate. Because the team learned, they worked really well under a high amount of pressure. They figured out a bunch of stuff. It's a great skill. You don't teach this stuff in business school, even with it's like a case study live, Right. And they have all that behind them for the next time. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do a bad deal per se. They didn't do it. I won't say bad deal. They didn't do a deal that wasn't optimal for them.
And where does that patience for you and by extension Walt come from? Why do you have that patience with with some of your investments?
A lot of people say we're not very patient.
Well, in this case,
a lot of it comes from having done it. Well, because what you learn, the really interesting part about how to do a really good deal with a partner is that you learn what everybody. In another company, we do a process for building large construction projects, and the magic there that we now trade in is getting the team together before the project even starts. to figure out what it is that you want. What's the mission? Where are you going? Who are the stakeholders? How many resources do you have? And gathering all that stuff together. So if we get to advise a company at the very beginning, we get to help them with stuff like culture. Well, this may not matter now, but down the road, this is going to matter a lot. And today it's you and the dog in the garage. But as soon as you take, and it's your company, but as soon as you take $1 from Ken, it's your Ken's company, and then you're responsible for the employees and their families. So if we screw up, we're going to maybe have to lay somebody off. And it's like, it's the old adage, if you don't have kids, you don't know as a parent. Well, it's like, if you've never had to lay anybody off, it's like, you don't know. I'm not talking about firing people. Firing people sometimes has to happen. And if it's done properly, it's good for the people and for the company. But when we as management have screwed up, and then we have to go take jobs away from people that trusted us to be leaders, there's nothing worse than that. So, so if we can help move things in the right direction to avoid some of those things. So yeah, that's where the patience comes from, because persistence is a huge part of the game. And so, I think our patience is in support of their persistence. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I, one of the things that I keep coming back to or thinking about is, collaborations that, you can help foster for the guys here at Rise and our team here, and what that's led to with the partnership with Anthony Lifgates, and what's going on in that space. What has your input, what have you given for input, for this?
Well, the big picture, and I credit Walt for his great ability to hyper focus. And what we want to be able to do, and we want to support our teams in doing, is and I think this is, Walt will know who this came from. This is from, I think, Mr. Colbert from KKR. I think it's where Walt attributes it to, but I might not be correct in that. The thing is, we're flexible about how to do a thing. We've got a new technology, and we're looking for someone to integrate this new technology into their core business. Because to add on, you don't get the benefits. You can't sort of stick a battery in the back of an old car and call it a hybrid. That doesn't work. These are new technologies that are best used integrated into something else, which means that a partner, either we do it ourselves, or we find a partner that's going to take a leap of faith and figure out how to really do this. And what we need to do is figure out how to be incredibly flexible in how we put the structure of that arrangement together that respects the other party, what their needs are, what their resources are, what their desires and vision and everything is, what their capabilities are, and not just say, we have this cookie cutter approach to how we're going to do a deal. The Anthony guys, it's a multi-generational, extraordinarily well-run, in my opinion, company that's done a great job of building and sustaining a business, a family business through multiple generations, which is very rare. They're smart, they're careful, and they wanted to make sure that everything. So the parameters that they bring to the plate, they know their customers, they know that industry. We wanted to partner with a leader in an industry that we wanted to move into, because we have a new technology, but what we don't know is we don't know what we don't know about their industry. So it's a lot of words here, but the key is it took a long time to get a deal right with those guys. We're really glad we took the time, and it's taken a long time to pull the machine together and make sure that we got it where we want it to be. To say that machine is special, I think it's borderline incredible. In the beginning, I'll tell a little story. In the beginning, when they came for a demo,
Yep.
this is on a lift gate, right? The Rise system is actually so efficient that they were powering it on two little RC airplane batteries. Were like taped to the side of this thing. Now it's used to running on a bunch of fat car batteries, right?
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
lose the RC batteries, put the car batteries there, because they're not going to believe you.
Yeah.
It's like, so, but, so anyway, I'm really, the deal with Anthony's gone really well. They've done a great job. We all wish it, we all wish it could go faster, but they also have had the discipline of saying, yeah, let's make sure we get it right. And
Well, that goes back to what you said about a well-run, company that, is thoughtful in how they, do things. And, you just made another really good point about having an opportunity to be integrated into something else. And that's where the best use case comes from. Thinking forward, beyond the partnership with Anthony today, what is your vision for Rise in the coming years?
Oh, well, first of all, it's Rise's vision, but what I'd love to see happen is, simply put, something like the lift gate, until someone actually sees the application and sees what goes on and sees what the technology does and sees that it's reliable and it performs the way that we tell them that we say that it will, they're not going to take the risk to integrate it into some new technology.
Right.
So one of my favorite things about early stage technology, these new things, is that there's a killer app someplace, right? And everybody's out trying to find the killer app. I contend that no team, no matter how smart, is likely to guess the killer app out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
However, what we can do is create the situation where we accident upon the killer app. So we can greatly increase the odds that we will find the application, because it goes into the, I didn't prep for this question, but the way I describe it is, who knew that thing that Justin and Ken were doing 3 years ago would turn into this, And it's like, you couldn't have imagined it per se, or somebody did, but maybe we didn't. So commercially, we want, obviously, the technology to be adopted and used safely and effectively and commercially successfully, so that it creates revenue and more resources to continue to develop other technologies at Rise and continue to move other things forward. We're moving next into very big, very, very hard things that use tons of energy that we can figure out how to greatly reduce the energy usage and greatly improve their carbon footprint and their performance. And since we effectively use considerably less than half the energy of the hydraulic systems, we can double runtime or do some other things. But the fun parts is it'll make something happen that couldn't be done before, and we just don't know what that is yet. So to me, yeah, put the pieces in place, let the company become more and more successful, create more resources for the creativity of this team and new members to be added to the team, their creativity, to do stuff that we get to go, how cool is this? We could never have thought of it in the future.
That's part of the terrifying blast that you said at the beginning, right? That's it's, you don't know where it's going to go, and it is so exciting to be on the journey.
Exactly.
Well, I'm very thankful to have had the opportunity to have you on today and get to know you a little bit better and hear your perspective over the last several years and what it means to you and the team, and all the input that you've had that's led to some of the successes today. So, John, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for talking with me.
All right. It's been great having you. Until next time.
You have been listening to the Rise Inside podcast, presented by Rise Robotics. On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening. Please share your feedback on our LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/company/rise-robotics.